Mason, POV. The relief to have both Jane and Ben make it through the change at the same time was like a huge weight had been taken off of my shoulders all at once. I was not sure if either one had not made it through, the other would die soon after, and my mate would be a mess for a while. She was very close to her parents. The twins were sleeping and the suite seemed to be quiet. I wondered where the nanny was. I thought we had two. We went to our room, made a coffee and just sat beside each other. No words were needed. Her company was fine with me. We looked out over the balcony to the woods beyond, and I had the urge to go for a run. But I doubted right now was a good time. I think Heather would like to hang around a little longer and make sure her mum and dad were fine. I rested my head on her shoulder and just enjoyed the quiet and peace of the moment. It was not long before the sun would go down and dinner would be served. I wanted to enjoy a few more minutes with my mate, but we hardly got to have a real quiet moment together. Every time we do, something always interrupts us. I must have dropped off to sleep because I woke to a terrifying scream, and the sun had gone down. Heather jumped up beside me. She too must have fallen asleep. We rushed to the twins' room where the screaming was coming from and rushed through the door. Jane had the other nanny by the throat and had lifted her up, making her legs dangling in the air. Jane turned to us and said the worst thing I could think of. "When I came in here, she was trying to strap the children to her body. She was going to kidnap them." Jane's voice was cold and unemotional. The nanny did have the evidence still strapped to her body. The nanny's face was turning blue, and if Jane did not drop her soon, she would suffocate, and I had to find out why she wanted my babies. "Drop her, Jane. We need to question her. You can kill her after we have some answers," Heather said softly, asking her mother. The nanny dropped to the floor, holding her neck and gasping for breath, which she gulped in with long, deep pulls. "Speak," Heather ordered in a voice I had not heard before. Heather had always been soft and kind, but this was her queen voice, and the goddess helped anyone who crossed her. That voice would be scary to be the receiver of, and Mum is stronger now. She has changed. "I was going to leave here and get paid a lot of money to move somewhere else. I've had enough of this kingdom," the nanny croaked out, her voice raspy from the damage Mum had done. "What were you going to do with the children?" Heather growled out in a low tone. "Give them to a woman." "Where?" I growled out. "The merchant's in 2 hours. "What does she look like?" "Long black hair, red lipstick, red dress. We'll sit at the back near the kitchen doors." "Anything else? How tall? Is she lichen?" "No, not lichen. I don't know what she is, but not lichen and not a werewolf. Maybe a witch." The nanny was being very cooperative, and it was amazing watching the ability of my mate. Before I could stop her, Heather disappeared, leaving me to keep questioning this woman. I was so annoyed with my mate taking off like this. Then Heather arrived back with a woman in a red dress, struggling to get out of her hold. "Is this the woman?" Heather asked, pushing the woman forward to the nanny. "Yes," the nanny answered, and the woman whom Heather had pushed forward said words I did not understand, and the nanny dropped to the floor dead. Heather grabbed the woman by the neck and raised her high in the air. The woman struggled and gurgled out words, and Heather laughed at the woman and her futile attempt to use her witchcraft on her. "You think your magic will work on me? You are a fool. Tell me, witch, are you the one that kidnapped Brenda all those years ago?" I felt the power of Heather and some kind of magic I did not know my mate could weave flow over the woman, causing the woman to stop struggling and answer her questions. "Yes," she replied. "Our coven wants the werewolves gone, and we nearly managed that, but that girl escaped, and we had no idea where she went. We had to try and bluff our way for years, but it failed. Where is your coven?" "South of the gorge." With that, Heather dropped the woman, and like the nanny, she breathed her last. We now have our answers. That also means we are right. The King of the South is in cahoots with them. Dad, what do you think? I had not even noticed Ben entered the room. I was so consumed with the events before me, but my mate rarely missed a thing. I agree. We thought something off when that king came here to attend the ball uninvited. But Harold allowed him to stay, but this is not good. We need to talk to Harold and get some groups together. Ben was talking tactics, and this was something I could get involved in. No, Dad. I think we need to keep it here. I think we have enough people to take on the witches. I think they should be taken out first. Heather argued back, not letting up on getting to the witches and stopping this stupid war. How about we get a hold of Harold and see if we can maybe invade the South at the same time as you take out the witches? Are you strong enough to take them on? Mum, are you up to this? I know you have some of the same powers as I have. Could you take on some witches? Of course, dear. We can take them on together. Jane looked smug and ready to take on those who dared touch her grandchildren. Mason, do you want to be part of this? Yes. Do you want me to be with you or Harold? With Jane and me. We might need your strength. That surprised and pleased me, and I got to fight alongside my mate. Let's get someone we trust to be with the twins, and then see Harold about getting a group together. We can open a portal that Harold can use to cross through. We just need to know where and when. We cannot let the witches regroup or the King of the South get wind of this. How about taking the twins to Michael and his new mates? And while there, ask Agatha if we can give us some warriors too. They may have some questions too. We have little knowledge of the South and the other kings and queens. Plus, we can take some warriors from here. We have enough to make a good fight, I said quietly, while my mind thought of different aspects of the pending fight.
Chapter 129. Heather, POV. How dare they try and take my babies? That was not going to happen to me. I think the witches were going to double-cross the King of the South. They want the werewolves gone. They must have been very convincing for him to fall for their lies and believe that there was something for him at the end of all of this. Look at how long this has been happening. How many lives have been lost because of this greed? Or maybe there's something more to it. Mom looks great. She is at full strength, raring to get her hands on the witches, who dared to try and take her grandchildren. Mom said she woke up with a voice telling her to get up and go to the twins now. And when she made it there, the nanny had put our daughter in a sling that she had around her waist and was working on picking up our son. Mom had grabbed her by the throat, removed our baby from the sling, and placed her back in the cot, all while having this nanny squirming and thrashing about. Mom said she did not seem to weigh much at all, and that she could feel some energy coursing through her as she restrained the nanny. How's Dad? I looked at Mom. She was still looking at the woman on the floor. Mason had called security to come and remove this piece of shit from our room. He is in the shower. We both are still a bit grotty after our ordeal, and he knew I could handle one stupid nanny. He looks so wonderful and all muscled up. He was great before, but he's even better now. Our strength is so much greater than ever before. I feel as though I've gained some kind of magic, too, or some ability I had not had before. I have yet to investigate it. Mom was excited to get her teeth into these witches and try out those new feelings or powers she may have gained. I think between the two of us, we can take on the whole coven and still have plenty of strength left. I wondered if some of this change in Mom, the magic she could feel, could mean that she could create portals too. I'm excited about that. Mom has worked hard all her life. If this makes things better for her and Dad, I am all for it. And if she can make portals too, that could take some pressure off of me in the future. We gather the sleeping twins and some clothes and food. Mom gives them a quick kiss and says she's going to join Dad in the shower. Yeah, as if I needed to know that. And Mason and I portal to Michael's bedroom. We thought that might be the best place to arrive. How wrong could I have been? A scream greeted us as we appeared at the foot of the bed, and the sight of the twins who were actively working on Michael on the bed. Only one of the twins had seen us. The other was still taking Michael in her mouth. I turned my back on the sight and repeated in my head, "Unsee, unsee, unsee." Oh dear God, what a sight. I did not need to see that any time again soon. And felt like what I had just seen would be forever etched in my mind. The last thing I needed to see. I was so stupid to think coming here was a good idea. What the fuck, Mason? Michael growled. I heard him get off the bed and turned around to face them. Sorry, brother, but we need you, Mason said. I hand over my little girl to one of the twins. Mason does the same with our other baby. The girls take the babies and coo at them, giving them baby talk. Their eyes shone with love at the little bundles in their arms, kissing them on the cheeks and sniffing their baby scent. What's going on, Mason? Michael asked, concern on his face, as he pulled on some pants as quickly as possible. The girls were not bothered with their naked bodies. They just sat on the bed and enjoyed holding the babies. Michael was dressing for my sake. I'm not sure if he wants his sister-in-law to see him still partly aroused. Ugh. Someone tried to kidnap our twins. We need to go and sort it out. We're leaving the twins with you, as this is the only safe place we could think of for leaving them, Mason answered, as he placed the bottles and all the other stuff we had brought with us for them. Who? The other nanny. Why? Something to do with witches and not wanting us shifters to exist, I said calmly. I was ready to take on those witches. They were going to get a bit of a surprise when they eventually met with me. I have more power than the High Priestess. Another little gift. And the pendant I'm wearing has a lot of surprises too. Those bitches, Michael growled out. We're going to see Agatha. Could you and your mates protect our babies while we're gone, so we can end this once and for all? I asked, a bit hesitantly. We had made some presumptions about their willingness to look after the twins, and now I'm second-guessing myself. Of course we will, the twins answered, and then looked at me with surprise. Surprised that I would even ask such a thing. They looked back down at the babies in their arms with adoration. Where do you need me? Michael asked, looking at his mates holding the babies, with a soft, longing smile on his face. I could guess what that was about. He would love twins too, so his mates each had a child to cuddle. Stay here. It would give me a peace of mind, knowing that you're here to defend them, if need be, Mason said to my relief, as I did not want to have to mention what could happen if we failed. Of course. Michael's chest puffed up with pride at the responsibility that he had just been handed. Chapter 131. Heather, POV. It was a relief to leave my babies with Michael. I trusted him and those mates of his, and he had begun his change. I thought it would be slow like Mom and Dad, but he seemed to have grown a fair bit already. I briefly thought he might be changing quicker since he had 2 ladies to help him through it. And I was happy for him. He is going to be amazing when the change is completed. And now for the next part. Melissa. I don't know anything about her. My information does not include much about witches. They have kept to themselves most of the time, just like the Lycans had. Mason and I had a bit to do before we went headhunting, and soon got busy back in the palace, getting a group together for him to get through the portal and attack the southern palace. We were going to use the portal and take all the men straight into the main hall and burst into the hallways too. We have 1,000 strong warriors of our own, ready to go and get revenge on the South. And though Agatha offered some of hers, we decided in the end to take only our men. If the Southern King is under the influence of the witches, it will be evident when we break the crystal. If it is a spell, he will fall to the floor when the shard is in pieces. If he is not under any spell, but is doing this along with the witches, we will not see any change, and he will most likely continue as normal, showing very little difference. And that is when Mason will attack in force. Maybe by then, I could portal him back and still assist him. I will have to see what can be done. It all comes down to Melissa, and for now, I will have to trust her. We were waiting in the main hall, 1,000 warriors all hanging around in the garden, geared up and ready to go. We were just waiting for Melissa to show up. And Mason and I were sitting, eating our lunch. Mom and Dad were with us, but they were only having coffee. And though I wanted Dad to stay here, he refused to be let out of it. And Mom convinced me to let him go with Mason and have his back, as it were. It was a very large back to cover. I chuckled to myself over my mom's comment. It was what I needed to relax and enjoy my lunch with my family. The palace was a hive of activity. It seemed everyone knew something was about to happen. They wanted to be near to see it, but they had little to see. Just as I finished my lunch, Melissa and 11 other ladies arrived. They were all dressed in long, flowing white dresses, markings on their arms and faces, hair loose and flowing down their backs. They walked up to Mason and me and bowed gracefully in front of us. I nodded to them and offered them a drink. No, we are ready to leave. We have cleansed ourselves and are prepared to take on the dark witches. Good, let's go, Mason said, as he stood up and headed for the side door. The witches followed him. They did not speak or look around to look at our palace or the grounds. They were focused on Melissa and copied what she did. Heather, can you open the portal and send us through to the South Palace first? Mason asked, as the men in the garden stood to attention. The portal glowed, and soon the gardens of the palace shimmered into view. Mason led the men through the portal. I was going to leave this portal open. A number of warriors were going to stay by the portal and keep guard over it. Until our men return, we don't want anyone to cross over by accident. So many people walk around the gardens. They're open for the public to enjoy for a few hours a day, something I'm not quite sure about right now with all these strangers walking about our home grounds. But I don't have the heart to stop something so simple that the locals seem to enjoy. It felt weird. Lichens that seemed to have vanished from our sights years ago. They had so many people that knew who they were and visited their gardens with no fear of these giants. Once the men were through the portal, I put a spell on the opening, so only our men could come back through it. I opened the portal for us to enter. The dark crystal came into view, and the 12 ladies gasped at the sight of it, being the first time they had seen it, and the confirmation that the witches were indeed using the crystal to channel dark magic. It pulsed with dark power that you could feel through the opening that I made in the room. We have never seen it before. I am sorry I doubted your ability to open the room. The surrounding spells are powerful, Melissa said, as she stared at the pulsing shard. Let's go, I said. Now was not the time to get into this right now, and without looking at her, I walked through the portal and entered the room. At first, the magic was oppressive, and it hit me harder than I expected. The ladies entered behind me. And soon they would surround the crystal, and once in place, they started chanting. Mom and I walked around the crystal and took it in. It stood nearly 10 feet tall. It shimmered and pulsed with power, and it seemed to fill me with sadness and pain. I blocked away those feelings and started to hunt for a place on the crystal that had any weakness or somewhere I could focus on. The ladies' chanting got louder and louder, and it rose in intensity. Suddenly, I thought I heard the tiniest sound of glass cracking. I quickly walked around the pulsing shard again, my eyes running all over it, from top to bottom and then back up again, in hope. And then Mom found it. "Over here!" Mom called. There was a small crack at the base of the crystal. The ladies were doing a great job at building positive power and resisting negative energy. The shard was pushing hard at them. Quickly, I took the little bag I had and pulled out a small hammer and splinter and gave Mom the splinter. She placed it on the end of the crack, and I started to hit it with my small hammer. Tiny chips of splintered crystals flickered past my face. The faster I hit my hammer, the louder and faster the chanting got. A trickle of sweat ran down my face. I heard my mom start to chant too, but a different chant, one that I understood. So I joined in with her. With each strike of the hammer, I would say another part of the chant. A loud banging started on the door. With each chant that echoed in time with my hammer, the more urgent the banging on the door became. Then, all at once, the crystals shattered into millions of tiny pieces. We were all covered in tiny pieces of glass as it showered down on us. "Ladies, do you wish to fight the witches?" I asked, and looked at Melissa. The banging on the door had not ceased. "Yes." The answer came with no hesitation and in unison. I waved my hand in the direction of the door, and it flew open. A few women dressed in black dresses fell into the room. When the door gave way, we stood staring at them as they got back to their feet and waited to see what was going to happen. One lady, who acted like the leader, stood up and stared at us with attitude. Her ladies crowded behind her. She lifted her hands, the ladies copied her, and together spoke words I did not understand, and waited for something to happen. The look of confusion on the leading lady's face told me everything I needed to know. They had lost this fight. "Melissa, they are all yours. Can you get back on your own?" I asked softly, watching these ladies try other chants that were with little to no power. "Yes." I opened a portal and stepped through, taking my mom with me, leaving Melissa and her ladies to handle the situation, and rushed to Mason's side.
Mason, POV. The men joined me as we entered the large throne room, a place I had suggested we go to. It could hold most of us. It was a really huge room that held a throne on a high stage at the back of the room, and it towered over everyone. The king was there sitting on his overly large throne, his chin resting on his right hand, his elbow on the arm of the throne, and he looked into the room, seemingly rather bored. His eyes lit up when he saw us arrive, out of thin air, as if he had something to do at last. I wondered if he sat there all day being bored. "Welcome to my home. I had not expected a visit so soon. Can I offer you some food and drink, and maybe a little chat?" he asked, and I looked around the room. It did not have many people in it. The room was kind of sad to look at. I wondered if no one wanted to see the king. He has no issues. Our place has loads of people wanting us to solve problems, rising from shared land to who made the best cakes. It was stupid what some people came up with to gain our attention. That would be nice, "Do you have enough for all of us?" I asked, pretending this was a friendly visit and not out for war. Well, not quite yet. Heather's father stood by my side, never leaving me more than an arm's length away from him. The king waved his hand, and soon servants were walking in with trays of drinks. I mind-linked the men to take the drink offered, but do not drink it. We don't know what is in it. I watched as the king took a goblet of drink. The goblet was different to all the other goblets, and my suspicion grew. I pretended to drink and then put the goblet back on a tray as a maid walked by. I was not ready to use temptations. If I held the goblet, I might forget not to drink it. The men all did the same, and it was kind of awkward, not knowing what to do. Then I felt it, a change in the air, as if some spell had been broken. And the king slumped onto his throne, almost sliding off of it. Matteo was right. The king of the south was under the control of the witches, and he, having slumped in his chair, meant Heather had broken the crystal. This was a double win. I rushed to the king's side and lifted him up before he slid completely off the throne, and at the same time made sure he was still alive. I did not know how all this worked, and was concerned removing the spell could kill him, and that could incite a war. As I was making the king more comfortable, Heather and Jane appeared and rushed to the king's side. A glow from Jane's hands made the king groan, before managing to sit up on his own, pushing my hands away. "What happened?" he asked groggily, and he moved on his throne to get a little bit more comfortable. "You have been released from the Dark Witch's control. They won't be able to control anyone for a while," Heather replied softly, his eyes never leaving his. "Thank the goddess! That woman had me doing things against my control. Even my Lycan had trouble fighting their spells," he replied, and the room that had been filled with unknown tension relaxed as if taking a deep breath and letting it out slowly. "The crystal is broken, and the White Witches are dealing with the other witches. I thought it was best for their own kind to deal with them and the aftermath of those witches' actions. Hopefully they can find out how far their control had reached and repair some alliances." Heather had a wistful voice, one of hope. "Good idea. Can we start again?" he asked, almost pleading. "You were the one to kidnap the princess all those years ago, or your faction?" I asked, needing the truth and wondering at the same time if he would answer honestly. "No, the witches took her, and left her near the East Faction Palace. That is why I thought they may have had something to do with it, but we never found the girl, so we could not prove anything. And then I fell into the clutches of those witches." "How long?" "Only about 10 years ago they took my lover. I was just lucky I was never bonded to her, or I would have died years ago. They killed her. She was the one I was going to take as my next mate, but they took that away from me and said they would do the same with each woman I showed favor to." He looked remorseful, and I could understand how easy it would be to give in when they have the one you love. "How about you coming to visit us? Once you have your kingdom back under control, I think you should make a few changes that need to be made. Then we can talk about a blood oath or something similar," I suggested. The king's eyes widened at the suggestion, but did not disagree. Heather turned to our men and urged them to return to our home. They looked a bit disappointed there would be no fighting. I, however, was more than happy that no one was going to die today. Well, no Lycan, that is. Not sure how the witches will solve their problem. Others were entering the throne room as our men slowly drifted through the void in space. We are just over half through the portal, and I heard the first surprise of the day. "Mate!" One of our warriors called out to a lovely young lady that she had just entered the throne room. She stopped dead still and stared at our warrior, and then looked at the king and then back to our warrior. Did the king not want fated mates to meet? He brought a lot of men with him, and not one woman from his faction. I had thought he had brought some, but I was corrected by my brother, saying I was mixing up who was who. I watched and waited to see what would happen. Heather came and stood beside me, also watching the interaction. It was strange nonetheless.
"Sheila, what are you saying?"
the king asked, and I looked at the poor woman. She looked afraid to answer his question. She swallowed a hard lump in her throat. You could see her struggling before she managed to squeak out the words. "Mate," she whispered, but loud enough for our sensitive ears to pick up.
"You sure?"
"Yes."
"Well, Mason, it seems we have a blood bond after all. This is my daughter, and she is claiming one of your men. She is also the future queen, so your man will need to come to live here with us,"
he said smugly. The warrior looked at us questioningly. I nodded it was okay. I would never block the way for fated mates. They met in the middle of the room and were enveloped in each other's arms, and a whoop sounded out from some of our warriors. We watched them kiss and hold on to each other as if they were worried they would disappear. As the last of our warriors made it through the portal, we bid goodbye to the king, with promises of catching up again later.
Chapter 133. Heather, POV. After the last of our warriors made it through the portal, I sent Mom and Dad through too and closed that opening. Turning back to the throne room, we congratulated the warrior and bid the King of the South goodbye. I opened another portal for our babies and jumped through. A squeak from one of Michael's mates alerted us to them being in the room that we arrived in. I had not thought they would be in this room. It was the spare room that we had been offered to stay in whenever we visited, and I thought it would be empty, and had not thought of checking before jumping through. "Sorry," I mumbled, and headed over to our twins, taking my babies away. "We'd like to speak with Agatha, and then take our babies home," Mason said, softly to the twins. We took a child each and followed the women out of the bedroom and down the long hallway into the cozy small room at the end of the hall, where we found Agatha and Mateo having a coffee by the open window. They turned at our arrival and smiled. "Is it done?" Mateo was the one to ask the question. Agatha seemed okay with him taking the lead. Interesting, I thought. "Yes." "It will be interesting to hear how many people suddenly hit the floor for no reason. It will give us an idea of how widespread those women have gone." Mateo spoke speculatively, and I nodded in agreement. More were not doing what they were doing of their own free will, which made me think of the poor maid who tried to poison Sabrina. Was it all her idea, or was she part of the witch's grasp? I will never know, unless the mother comes to inform us of her daughter's sudden collapse. "Thank you for keeping our babies here, and good luck with Michael and the twins. I'm sure they're going to keep you busy for a while as they settle down into the new routine." "Michael's a real gem. I don't think he'll take much longer to finish his change. I'm impressed with his progress," Mateo said. I looked over at Agatha and frowned. "Agatha, what's wrong?" I walked over to her and stood beside her chair, looking into her eyes. I did not touch her. She seemed a little bit off, and I have no idea why. "Nothing. Just overwhelmed when all that has happened has done so in such a short time," she said, and I did not believe her. "Talk to me," I pushed again, putting a bit more authority into my push. My sister was under the witch's spell. She fell to the floor when you broke the crystal," she half sobbed out. "What? Why did you not tell me this?" growled Mateo as he knelt before her, pulling her into his embrace. "I did not want to worry you. I knew something was off about her, but I would never have dreamed it was because of the dark witches. They must have had her entrenched deep because she died when the shard broke," she sobbed out, and I touched her, sending her some healing and energy. You are not to blame for other people's actions. Let your heart heal. For her to die, she chose to be with them. There was more than just controlling, and you know that.
Yes, to drop dead like that, she was deep into the dark magic. I feel sorry for her children.
They had no idea, and they were confused by her sudden death. I did not want to tell them what I believed might have happened. Matteo comforted her, and I knew it was time to leave and let them grieve in peace. Please call me if you need me, I offered, and with the twins in our arms, we headed back home. Mom rushed to the nursery the moment we arrived. She would have felt us arrive, and she has an even closer attachment to us now. Oh, thank the goddess you are okay. I've been so worried. She kissed and took my daughter from my arms, and then took my son to the changing table and started to change them, regardless if they needed it or not. How's Dad doing? We sent him back with the warriors, hoping he would get over being sent home. He wanted to be by Mason's side until we had concluded our mission. But Jane had grabbed him by his arm and dragged him through the portal with her when we asked them to return. He'll get over it. That did not really answer my question, but it was a start. The next few weeks were a little bit hectic, with reports of more and more people dropping down dead for no apparent reason. We were not going to make any announcements about the reason. Those who were under the spell unwillingly may have dropped to the floor, but did not die. The kingdom was slowly coming to grips with the death, and put it down to a virus of some kind that hit the kingdom and was now done. My babies are getting bigger, and talks about peace around the kingdom was growing. I doubt I will have any more trouble now. Mom and Dad are both very strong Lycans and support Mason and me as we navigate our way through our new status. Each faction comes and gives a blood oath, including the King of the South, which did surprise me a little. We have many years to live and grow, and most likely we'll have more heirs. Mom and Dad will live a long time too, and I could not be happier about that. We just need to see how Mason's other brothers find their mates. Whether they might become Lycans too, or will their mates be werewolves? And my two younger brothers, will they share a mate? Only time will tell, and I have a lot of time to watch and learn. The end. Or is it?